Hey guys, Dave here. Welcome to Centurion's Review, the punk rock band of wargame review institutions. This is Axis and Allies from Avalon Hill. This game, 1941 is the edition. This game series, along with the Memoir 44 series and Battle Cry and those type of things, are basically the best war games for non-wargamers to play. This is simple enough that a non-wargamer would be able to figure it out, unlike the regular war games where it's kind of hard for a new person who's never played a war game before to figure out the rules. This will have no problem. 5 major powers struggle for supremacy. Germany and Japan are aligned against the Great Alliance of the United Kingdom, the Soviet Union, and the United States. Designed for 2 to 5 players, the game is set in 1941. The Axis has great momentum and is expanding its conquests in both Europe and Asia. Controlling one of the Axis or Allied powers, you will command both your country's military forces and its wartime economy. Show that you are a brilliant military strategist by planning your attacks, marshaling your forces into embattled territories, and resolving the conflicts. Victory goes to the side that conquers its opponents in the field of battle and liberates or occupies the greatest cities of the world. Change the course of history in a few hours. It says it's for 12 plus and time 1 to 3 hours and players 2 to 5. Whenever I played this, it was definitely closer to the 3 hours than the 1 hours as far as playing time. I've played this probably like 10 times in my life. Let's take a look at the map since it's a nice map. It's a good looking map and it's mounted too. And on the bottom here, let's see if I can get it into view. It's got a mobilization zone chart. It's showing the cost to buy it, movement and attack and defense for the different unit types. So that's good, that's on the map. Let's take a look at some of the other playing pieces. You got the dice here, and as you can see, you got aircraft carriers, airplanes, infantry, tanks, and so forth, and other types of ships, along with some tokens to show control. Same with, I assume this is the Japanese here, if I recall correctly. There's the Soviet Union, and here's the United States, and here's the Germans. And we have some more tokens here. Shows your casualty zone. And this is kind of like a CRT here. Let's take a look at the rules. Starts out going over the game components. And here it's showing the victory conditions. And here's the setup. Here it's explaining the spaces on the game board. And now here's the order of play. Phase 1 is purchase units. Phase 2, combat move. And here it's going over air movements, air unit movement and amphibious assaults. And here's special combat movement. And the third phase is conduct combat. And phase 4, non-combat move. Phase 5, mobilize new units and then collect income. So the sequence of play is pretty straightforward. If the Axis controls any 2 Allied capitals, such as London, Moscow, or Washington at the end of the United States player's turn, they win the war. If the Allies control Berlin and Tokyo at the end of the Japanese player's turn, they win the war. If all players agree to use the optional shorter game rules at the start of the game, the following victory conditions apply. If the Axis controls either Washington or London at the end of the United States player's turn, they win the war. If the Allies control either Berlin or Tokyo at the end of the Japanese player's turn, they win the war. And here it's going over the unit profiles. The cost, attack value, defense value, and movement value of them. And here's the 2 types of aircraft here, fighters and bombers. Sea units, looks like you got battleships, aircraft carriers and destroyers and submarines. And then you also have transport units. So there's 29 pages of rules there, but I mean, you can sit down and read this in like a half hour and get playing. Essentially, Axis and Allies is a really easy game to play, but it's kind of like, I would say it's a little bit like Risk, except you have different unit types and so forth, but it's an area control game, kind of like Risk. Thanks for watching, and have a good evening.